but how are you holding up?
So in moments like this, you have to remind yourself who the man was and what he did for your life. I have a family in a safe and beautiful state here in Florida because of Charlie Kirk. I am no longer an alcoholic because of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was somebody who established in my life Christ as the center, when booze and degeneracy, frankly, when I first met Charlie, was the center of my life. Charlie Kirk in many ways saved me from myself, from eternal damnation. Well, he prophesied to me. He was a man who spoke into my life. And when my family, there was a hail of bullets traveling down our block in Washington, D.C., when fire threatened my children's lives in Washington, D.C., Charlie offered me his home and his personal residence to stay in for as long as we needed to find a safe and secure location. He's the only man who did that. And we stayed for months. And the reason why I'm in Florida, Senator, and the reason why I have a thriving family here and business is because of Charlie. I must now internalize that and ask the Lord why. Why did you take Charlie? And to that, I searched the scriptures. And you can look to the very earliest days of the Christian church and find that the martyrdom of Stephen, a young man who was Charlie's age, and I got chills, and I get chills now thinking about it. I couldn't believe it when I looked it up. Charlie's age, who was murdered in public, stoned, in fact, by the authorities because he was speaking truth. He was speaking truth that made people uncomfortable. He was speaking the light of Christ when it was illegal. Stephen was doing his own prove me wrong about the life of Christ. And he was dragged out and killed for it. In fact, it was the Apostle Paul who was holding the garments so that everyone could kill Stephen. Upon Stephen's death, there were 200 Christians that were cloistered away and hidden in Jerusalem. They were in fear of their lives. The church was never more fragile. It was truly able to be smote by evil with the right strike. And after Stephen was the single greatest expansion of Christianity in the history of the world. It went from 200 believers to 200,000, reaching every corner of every nation. The man who held the garments to stone Stephen went on to write the entirety of the New Testament, the majority of it. His name was Saul then, and he was the Apostle Paul after. And that was the power of a martyr. And that was that God uses martyrdom throughout the Christian faith in order to save people. Why? Because people don't die for a lie, Senator. People die for the truth. And when someone is willing to give up their life, when someone's willing to live for the truth, as Charlie did, and then die for the truth, as tends to happen, people stop and pay attention. Have you ever seen anyone pass away? Have you ever seen anyone die and then suddenly their social media followings double or triple on someone who is no longer presently on this earth, alive with his Savior in heaven? Have you ever seen that? No one's ever seen it in their lives. I've never seen a death in my life, and there's been many great and famous men who've died in my nearly 40 years on this planet, Senator, who never inspired more people to go to church. Like I never saw churches filled, standing room only, parking lots down the street, because other great men died in my lifetime. This was a specific Charlie Kirk miracle. And so, if you're asking, my takeaway from this is, what would Charlie have wanted? Well, I've been through some major battles with Charlie. We'd witnessed the 2020 election, which was soul-crushing. And upon the news of Joe Biden's installation in some of the darkest days of, I think, our republic, Charlie Kirk grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and said, now's not our time to cry or be miserable. It is to us to carry the torch, to stand upright, and to continue the mission of America first. If it dies in our hearts, it will die in everyone's heart. And so now is the time, and this is an exact quote, now is the time, Benny, to go 50 times harder, is what Charlie would say to me. And so that is what I will embody. Now is not my time to cry or to sob or to be blubbering. weakling, now is the time to go 50 times harder for Charlie.
That is well said. I mean, I'm telling you from the start to right then, Vinny, that is the best example I've ever heard of a martyr, and the best example of truly Charlie's life. That is, once again, I go back to my goal now. Charlie set that example that I want friends to be able to talk about me like that. That's what I want my life to be. Title, don't care. What I accomplish, I don't care. I just want to be able to have people to be able to visit with like me or about me like that, and actually have a celebration of life.